Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Home Field Advantage. As always, I am your host, Brett Holmes. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for coming in to talk about football, coming to learn about football. I wish I could throw in the entire 53-man roster of the Dallas Trash Cans, but they could not make it to today's session. We got a lot to talk about. NFL 2 weeks in. I'm back after a couple of months. Last time I was talking to y'all, I was talking about the NBA draft. And I do want to get a couple of things out the way before we get things kicking off and get to something new. I do want to kind of lay out what I want to do with the podcast this week and going into the weeks in the future. I'm going to talk about a little bit of college football after I talk about the NFL. And I also am going to be having a fantasy episode coming out later this week, probably on Thursday, trying to get it out before the Thursday night game so I can get all your lineups set. Very last minute, going to give my top 10s for running back, wide receiver, and then probably quarterback and tight end as well. I might up it to top 12, but I'll just go through, give my guys studs, bust of the week, all sorts of things, helping y'all out in any way that I can. But most importantly, it's just football season, man. We're going to be talking a ton about football. When the NBA rolls around, we'll get to that when we can. But for now, we're just going to be focusing on the great fall leaves falling from the trees as we absolutely love to yell at TVs. Because if you're a fan of the Dallas Cowboys like I am, you absolutely hated your life on Sunday. But my fantasy team, I guess, one league isn't paid, but two of them. 14-man and a 10-man. 130 and then 150 points for both my teams. Phenomenal week. I'm going to be showing y'all my rosters that I'll have in a couple of those leagues and going through guys that I love and guys that I don't love. But today we're just talking about the league itself. We're going to go through some storylines when we get to them. But the main reason that I wanted to introduce something new is that I don't want to just jump around and talk about storylines. That's boring. Y'all just want to sit here and look at my head the whole time. No. Every single week, I'm going to be showing y'all something new, a tier, kind of similar to what First Things First does with the Mahomes Mountain, but that's just with quarterbacks. I'm going to be introducing the Holmes Hierarchy. And if you're wondering what that is, take a look. This is the Holmes Hierarchy. You see it right over here. You see all the tiers. You see where everybody's at. Let's roll through it. There are some shockers to some, but I'm going to be going through and giving my explanations for all of them here. You can barely see it at the bottom, but that's probably for the best. Down there in the David Tepper tier, you think you understand why the Carolina Panthers have a tier of their own. They just benched Bryce Young. If you ever want a speed run to not only ruin your franchise, but ruin a young quarterback that was one of the highly touted prospects of his class, maybe not the highest touted prospect, but this is still a guy that can be good. I still believe this is a guy that can be good. And if you're benching him for Andy Dalton in 2024, what the hell is your plan? What was the plan? From the start, what was it? If this really ends up with Bryce Young just leaving, I hope he goes to a team like Las Vegas that is playing great with a quarterback that is probably about half the talent as Bryce Young could be. I hope he goes to a team like Los Angeles, where he can just be an understudy to Matthew Stafford and then come out and prove everybody wrong in Carolina that they are just bad at managing a football team. I don't know how in the last couple of years it has quickly shifted from the Browns being the worst ran organization in football to the Panthers being really bad at running a football team. The Browns fumbled Baker Mayfield, but y'all ruined him. Y'all ruined him. And now you've got a team like the Bucs that is doing just fine with a quarterback that was unplayable for you. I wonder if it was his fault. It's not his fault. He got a payday. He's playing great. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league right now. Cam Newton was the last MVP caliber quarterback you had, and you had prime Riverboat Ron to lean on. Ever since then, I mean, y'all had better days with Matt Rule. That's saying something. It's a disgrace. If I'm a young talent going into Carolina, I'm scared for my life, especially if I'm a quarterback. What are you going to do next year? You going to draft Quinn Ewers? I don't think he's as good of a talent as Bryce Young. What are you going to do? Draft Shadur? I don't think he's as good of a talent as Bryce Young. And we're talking about prospects here. Bryce Young was an insanely good prospect. And everyone's like, I just don't think he's good. The man looks scared. The man doesn't look comfortable. The man looks like he has a team that doesn't want him there anymore. And why? Because it's a culture that has been established from head to toe. You want to know how I know so much about establishing cultures? I'm a Cowboys fan. I'll talk about the culture we established this past week and that we have continued to establish for the past 25 plus years. And the Carolina Panthers are in the same boat, except we at least win games. Carolina's wasting talent. I hope Bryce Young gets out of there this offseason. Andy Dalton will probably come in and be a better quarterback because he knows how to play the game. I don't think Bryce Young knows how to play the game because he hasn't been given an opportunity to know. The next tier, future home of Shadur. We've got the New York Giants. Man, if y'all had Graham Gano, y'all probably would have won that game against the Washington, almost said Wizards, the Commies. You almost beat the Commies. The Giants almost beat the Commies. But the New York Giants, I mean, they're playing more like the New York Toddlers. And speaking of toddlers, I'm sick and tired of seeing Brian Daboll come out here every single week and have these tantrums. Is anybody going to oppose his little, I'm going to throw my headset on the ground. Oh, we suck. Why do they suck, Brian? Head coach of the New York Football Giants. Why do they suck? You're the one that decided to keep Daniel Jones. You could have gone a separate direction. You could have let him walk. You are a part of that decision. Your front office that is entirely behind you is a part of that decision. But you buried yourself so deep into a hole, you're paying a man $40 million that is not even playing ball close to it. Daniel Jones would not be a starting quarterback on any of the rosters on this list, period. And Sam Darnold is a starting quarterback in this league. I'm just saying. Moving up. So the season's over. It's 2 weeks and we already know that the season's over. Now there is a good team in here. The Los Angeles Rams. Why is their season over? Look at their injury chart or injury report. Or just look at their injured reserve. Steve Avila, starting guard, a damn good guard, in my opinion. Guy at a TCU, second-year man, IR. Puka Nacua, the greatest rookie wide receiver we have seen. Yet, I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. just had a massive week. IR. Cooper Kupp, former Offensive Player of the Year. IR. Your number one wide receiver is Demarcus Robinson. Kyron Williams, you better be injecting steroids into every muscle in your body because you are about the only guy that needs to stay healthy. And he is also coming off of an injury. I don't think it's going to be a great season for Los Angeles if this continues. Their defense already is young and recovering from the absence of Aaron Donald. And I think with guys like Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, they're in the right direction. But there's about half a season that is killed now because you've got some massive proponents of your offense that are just not there. If anybody can knock them out of it, it's Sean McVay. But I think the playoff hopes that we were once looking at are going to be whittling away very, very quickly. But to the Broncos and the Commanders. Now, I didn't put the Commanders in the same tier as the Giants, even though I don't think they're that much better of a team. And they only won because Graham Gano got hurt. They've got talent. They've got good talent. Jaden Daniels played a good game. He looked good. He looked accurate. He looked sharp. My only thing is that he needs to learn how to slide, just like Anthony Richardson. He needs to learn how to slide. The boy's going to get himself hurt. And I call him a boy because he's playing like a kid out there. He's just going, boom, going head first into tackles. He needs to stop doing that. But overall, it's a Dan Quinn coach team. I really don't think anybody has too much of a ceiling for them. If this division is as bad as we are making ourselves seem, we might be cooked. And they might end up getting like a 7-10 playoff seed because the Eagles looked horrible against the Falcons. Dallas was Dallas. And the Washington Commanders currently lead the division. So what are you going to do? Denver. Bo Nix has looked horrible these first 2 weeks, but I don't think it's, again, him. This offense is horrible. You've got some talent. Javonte Williams is decent as a running back. You want to see him get consistent. He got a lot of touches, but his efficiency went down last year. And then you've got a guy like Cortland Sutton, had a great year last year, was developing a connection with Russell Wilson. And then the moment he had a good connection with a good quarterback, and I still believe Russell Wilson is a good quarterback, he got that ripped away from him. And now he's got Bo Nix, who is right back to the drawing board. But their defense is horrible. Their front seven is probably the worst in the league, honestly. I mean, right there up there with the Panthers. But I really think Panthers and the Giants have better talent than the Broncos. The Broncos are just better coached with a guy like Sean Payton. So that's that. The Titans. Now, I considered putting them in the tier because they're an franchise. They're probably going to squeak out some wins. Hell, they could be a winning team. Will Levis could explode. But, dude, every single week, Will Levis is a meme. He's a walking meme. The dude is doing this. He's fucking flying with the ball in his hand, trying to shovel it out. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's making stupid plays. He's making really stupid plays. They are a much talented team than what their record is probably going to end up showing. But their defense is not that talented. And it might be schemed well, but their secondary has concerns. I think in next year's draft, you're looking at a perfect landing spot for either Travis Hunter or Will Johnson to go. And I think that's where these two guys are going to go. They need a corner bad. Caleb Farley didn't end up working out. You know, he's not even on the team anymore, which sucks as a Hokie guy, but he just couldn't stay healthy. So Tennessee probably looking towards draft capital here, but hey, it could be salvaged. But as of right now, the season is over. Going up into the category. Look, I considered putting the Bears up there, and sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. But I'm going to put them in for now just because I need to see more from Caleb. I need to see more from Caleb to make this team sometimes good. Because Eberflus, we don't know him as a coach. He put together a good game plan last week, not really scoring much, but offensively he needs to put up more points. With the talent that you have, you need to put up more points. And until that happens, they stayed really competitive, and that made me want to put them up there. But I think if Caleb figures it out, I think they skip the tier that they're behind and go to almost there. Because if Caleb's almost there, this team is almost there. And he could really take them far, but he needs to knock off the rust. He needs to get these rookie woes out of the way. The Bengals. Y'all got to get some chemistry going, man. Y'all had that game, and a lot of people want to blame it on the refs. You had the game sealed if Jamar Chase shuts his mouth. What a horrid first 2 weeks for Jamar Chase. You do all of this whining, complaining for a contract, and now all of a sudden you're costing your team wins. And you're not putting up statistics to make up for it. You've got guys that are like wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 4s on the depth chart outplaying a guy that is asking for $40 million a year, or however the hell much he's going to end up asking for. Probably 35 to 40 mil. It's concerning. The Browns, great bounce back. Deshaun still does not look like a collective quarterback. This defense had a massive, massive game against a team like the Jaguars, who are also in this tier. I think this is a good bounce back. Again, same thing with the Bears. If Deshaun's there, I think this team's there. I think they will be up there once they start getting a little bit more congealed with each other. Amari Cooper needs to get his targets at least portrayed into receptions, but hopefully worthy receptions, because this was a man who had one of the best performances by a wide receiver in the last couple of years, last year with Joe Flacco. Deshaun's got to do something. Green Bay, you're for now, even though you were good and you did have a pretty good game plan. I'm still going to put them in just because Malik Willis doesn't wow me too much. That may be controversial, but once they get Jordan Love back, almost there. But I think the Colts are still a team that are figuring it out, and I'm going to put both of them in because there were things that I saw from Green Bay that, okay, you look good. Malik Willis didn't do too much. And he could just be in a good scheme that could thug it out. But I think they have a couple of matchups coming up that he's going to have to step up in, and because if Josh Jacobs gets shut down in the first half like he did against the Eagles, I mean, he did nothing in that first half. If that happens again, or at least somewhat in that arena, I don't think that's a game that Green Bay can come back from. I retract my statement. I just looked at their schedule, and Green Bay might be in almost there. Green Bay might be in almost there. So don't mind what that says on the Holmes hierarchy. I thought they had a much better schedule, but they've got the Titans, the Vikings, and the Rams. And look, the Vikings could give them a run for their money, but they always play really well against them. But the Rams and Titans are so hurt. I think they're going to be just fine. So, sorry, Green Bay. That's on me. My bad. You're getting thrown up to almost there. So just, I mean, it's a screenshot. I'm not like on the actual like maker website because I didn't want the stuff in the background, but it's a screenshot. So I'm not really going to fix it right now. So deal with it. But Green Bay, you're in almost there. The Colts are in though. You got to figure it out, man. Anthony Richardson's got to, figure out how to not throw nothing but bullets and deep balls. He's got to become a well-rounded quarterback. Again, the same thing that I said earlier with Jaden Daniels. Learn how to slide. You're going to get yourself hurt again. The Colts defensively, they need to get some things together. They keep on being just right there, which would make them in almost there territory. But you can't start 0-2 and be almost there. I'm going to go Patriots look like a really well-coached unit. Shout out to Mayo. Mayo is doing a phenomenal job bringing together a team that is talent-wise a 3-win team, and they could end up being a 7-9-win team just because of how well they are put together. Great job these first couple of weeks. I know you lost an OT, but that team was better, and that's a team that you should have lost to, and you still took them to overtime. Great job. Jacksonville, you might be on fraud watch, man. Trevor Etienne, not Trevor Etienne. He plays for Georgia. Travis Etienne. It's a little bit concerning, man. I'm a little bit concerned with his play. The usage is there, but the efficiency just really isn't. So, hoping to see if he can bounce back. Next tier, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. The kings of this tier that will probably not leave this tier for the whole season. Because I don't think they need to be anywhere but this tier. And that's the ass Cowboys. Look, I don't even want to waste my time talking about it, man. Because it's the same story every single year. This is just a team full of losers. Micah Parsons, you are a loser. Dak Prescott, you are a loser. Ezekiel Elliott, you are a loser in New England and Dallas before. Welcome back. You fit right in. Loser. CeeDee Lamb, loser. Jalen Brooks, bum. You're not even a loser. You're a bum. Get off my team, dude. Look, Dak was having a good game. I'm not even going to put this on him. This was a horribly played game by this defense. People just going in absolute opposite directions of where they needed to be. Our edges were non-existent compared to last week. It was an opposite team of what we saw last week. This felt like 2020, not the team that we saw last week. You're going to stay in this year for the whole season. And until you play convincing football, you don't deserve to be anywhere else. The Cardinals, they put up a fight against Buffalo the previous week, and they showed out against a hurt Rams team, but a Rams team that is coached by Sean McVay that has gotten their number the past times. I'm really impressed. This was one of the better games that Jonathan Gannon has put together for Arizona. And if Kyler and Marvin is really here, that is automatically one of the most dangerous QB wide receiver duos in the league because they were lighting it up. The man didn't even need to be used in any of the other quarters. The first quarter was all he needed to light up the stat sheet. Phenomenal game all around for the Arizona Cardinals. Loved what I saw this past week. Las Vegas Raiders, that's another team that is overperforming. Again, last week, You looked a little lackluster, but you showed out against a team that you were not supposed to beat in any facet. Gardner Minshew got comfortable. This pass game opened up, and you start realizing, hey, maybe Antonio Pierce is cooking something over there because Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers, alongside Jacoby Myers, who really is a non-factor, but those two guys really did shine in this game. Brock Bowers might already be a top 5, top 3 tight end in the league, especially for fantasy. That is a given after this past week. Phenomenal start for that offense. Going into that game, there was not a lot of hype, but Devontae bounce back. Brock Bowers keeps going. Gardner Minshew stayed composed against a good opponent. Baltimore starts 0-2. And I know they're down the list. I'm going one by one, but we got to rope Baltimore back into this. Baltimore, what the hell, man? This is 2 games that y'all should have won. You surprisingly had the breakout of the century with Isaiah Likely on your team last week, and you couldn't figure that out. You had Zay Flowers wide open for a touchdown. You had Isaiah Likely open for a touchdown and couldn't get his foot in, but that's what happens when you don't hit your wide open looks. And now you're giving up losses to the Raiders? It's the first time since 2015 that they've started 0-2. It's a little concerning. New York. The good New York team. They beat the Titans just like I expected them to. The Titans stayed in it for a little bit, but Will Levis. And, your running backs were your best receivers in this game. It was nuts. Braylon Allen had some good plays. Bryce Hall had that phenomenal catch for a touchdown. Great game overall. Happy to see Aaron Rodgers go out there and play some good football with the Jets. The Jets can be a fun team if they are a cohesive football team. We saw that against a bad opponent. We didn't see it against a good opponent last week. We'll see what they do from here on out. The Seattle Seahawks. This is an offense that has so much potential, and this is a team that could creep up into almost there because the talent is there, and I think the scheming on defense could be there too. But then again, the Patriots, who gave the Bengals a run for their money, who just gave the Chiefs a run for their money, lost to the Pats, and they took them to OT. So I don't know what to really think about it. There's a bunch of things to look at here, but I'm going to keep the Seahawks right here because I think they are still a good team, but there's going to be some close games that they're not going to be able to get just because that's just kind of the limbo that Seattle is in right now. Philly. Now, I really do hate when Dallas loses, but when Philly loses, I kick my feet. I sit over here and kick my feet. Jalen Hurts in the clutch is the worst quarterback in the league. And not only in short-time clutches within the game, I mean clutching the division. Last year, couldn't do it. You sucked. You turned the ball over a crap ton last year, and you're already on a pace like that again this year. It puts a smile to my face to see Saquon Barkley dropping a game-winning pass because that's all he's done for my fantasy team is fumble games. In this case, he didn't really fumble it. He dropped it, but it put a smile on my face. Shout out to the Falcons. Shout out to ATL. Let's go. The Commanders are number 1 in the NFC East, by the way. Just had to throw that out again. It's nuts, but Baltimore, 0-2. Your team's a lot better. You should be higher, but you can't be 0-2 and not be any higher than this. Miami. If Tua was actually contemplating retirement, you would be right down there with Los Angeles. But good talent, good defense. Let's see what your backup can do. Let's see what Skyler can do. I don't think he'll be able to do much, but I think it'll be an interesting outcome. But I think as of right now, they're just going to be clawing for wins. And Devon Achane is going to get 50 touches a game because of it. Moving up, almost there. Here we go. The Falcons. We got an amazing performance by Kirk Cousins in the clutch. I'm still kicking my feet. Kirk Cousins, phenomenal game by Kirk Cousins to end it there. Throughout the whole game, he kind of got better as the quarters went on. Bijan Robinson, it may be his time. The guy's playing phenomenal football. Consistent football. That's what you don't see with a lot of running backs. Buffalo. Man, this Buffalo team's fun to watch. James Cook on my fantasy team. I got James Cook and Brock Bowers this week. The UGA theme team is working to perfection. I wish I had Zamir White. Kidding. He sucks right now. But James Cook, phenomenal game. Pretty much was your whole offense in the first half. Josh Allen just played game manager the whole game. Really didn't get a lot of fantasy points. It was a horrible game script for him to get fantasy points, especially when you got James Cook just taking it to the house every time he touched the ball. Man, Buffalo is good. Buffalo is still going to be good. No matter if they lose talent, no matter if they lose guys that are all pros, they're always going to be good, man. It's annoying, especially when you got a guy like Josh Allen. You know that offense is always going to move. They're a fun team. They're a really fun group. Same thing with the Detroit Lions. Is Jamison Williams here to stay? Another guy that's on my fantasy team. And I think he's a guy that needs to start being talked about because back-to-back weeks, 9 targets last week, 11 targets the next, or I should say 9 targets week 1, 11 targets week 2. Phenomenal usage. He's a big play machine. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's just a deep threat. Well, guess what? If they're targeting the deep threat 11 times, I'm playing the deep threat in my fantasy team. Jamison Williams, phenomenal breakout. Amon-Ra, phenomenal comeback. But you dropped it last minute. Tampa, phenomenal game from Tampa. That was probably the best game that we saw all week, outside of Philly and Atlanta. That game was filled with a bunch of mistakes that I think Tampa and Detroit would take the cake for me. San Fran. Now you're almost there. You're not dogs. You're not kings of the world. You're almost there because you need to get your injuries fixed. Kittle carted off. Debo out. McCaffrey, IR. Why does this happen to the Niners like every couple of years, man? This is nuts. It really is nuts. The injuries this week were insane. They're insane every single year, though. I'm not shocked. It's a part of the game of football. San Francisco is going to figure it out once they get healthy, but they're still going to be a good team. I mean, they're probably going to be kings of the world, but they're not healthy, so I think they fit here in the almost there territory. And they just lost to the Vikings, so that's why you're dropped down. Los Angeles. Let's go, dude. Harbaugh's out there coaching dogs. Not going to put you in the dogs tier yet, but you're almost there. Quentin Johnston. Oh my God. Quentin Johnston looked great last week. Phenomenal game from him. Got into the end zone twice. I think that's his third touchdown. That was his third touchdown on that second reception. I think he has 3 in the year. Great start from him. Ladd McConkey didn't get a lot of touches, but week 1 he did look good. Overall, Justin Herbert's playing really comfortable football. J.K. Dobbins, the comeback is phenomenal. The Chargers are fun. The Chargers are fun again. I love it, dude. You got Dobbins coming back. You got Quentin Johnston being good out of nowhere. It's phenomenal ball. Thank you, Harbaugh. Thank you so much. The Chargers, they're 2-0, and they're almost there. I think if they start 3-0, they might have to be kings of the world. They might have to be in the dogs, but we will wait on that. The dogs, only undefeated from here on out. The Bucks. What a game. What a game. What ball Baker Mayfield is playing right now. Out of his mind. That is the definition of a cracked out white boy. That man is going insane in the Bay. Phenomenal game offensively and defensively. This team looks like it is the team to beat in the division outside of the guys that are on top. But I will say, the guys that are on top right now, they played 2 fraudulent defenses. We can say that now because we suck. But we will see. Tampa versus New Orleans. That is going to be a phenomenal game. But we'll get to them later. Pittsburgh. I don't know how you keep doing it, man. Mike Tomlin is a phenomenal coach because he's probably going to win 10, 11 games. He could compete for the division with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson just swapping out. I don't care who their quarterback is. They're managing to win games. They're managing to barely show anything on offense and purely dominate with their defense. They had big plays taken back from Justin Fields just because their offensive line couldn't hold. That's why they are not kings of the world. But if they had those big plays, more and more would have opened up. But for now, they are just dogs. But that is a very, very good thing. Kansas City, you got bailed last week. That was a game that I expected Kansas City to win by 14 based on how the Bengals lost against the Patriots. And I know the Patriots are a lot better coached team than the Bengals were in week 1. You got bailed. You got seriously bailed. Patrick Mahomes, Why are you throwing so many picks? You're going to have to throw the ball more now that Isaiah Pacheco is out for 6 to 8 weeks. You got bailed. You're not kings of the world. I know you're 2-0, but you got massively bailed. Now, I do want to preface that the Holmes hierarchy is not really there to show you who's better. Is Kansas City worse than New Orleans? No. Is Kansas City worse than Minnesota? No. Is Kansas City worse than Houston? Let's just say there's a reason that they're in the dogs and not the kings of the world. But I do want to say that right now, there are 3 teams that are kings of the world right now. And it's New Orleans, it's Houston, and it's Minnesota. They are on top of it. New Orleans, one of the greatest starts by an offense ever, and their defense is playing great. I mean, New Orleans, phenomenal start. I am excited again to see that matchup between the Bucks and the Saints 2 times this year. It's going to be cinema because that matchup is always a rough one. Houston, this was the team that going into the season, I think may just be the best team in the league. Regular season wise. In the postseason, maybe not. But in the regular season, I think this could be the team that wins the most games. I'm thinking 12 to 14. And I'm really leaning towards 14. That's how good this offense and this defense is. It's a well-coached unit. You've got probably Coach of the Year lock at this point, D'Amico Ryans. I'm already locking it in. If CJ Stroud leads them to the wins that I think he's going to lead them to, you'll have an MVP candidate. I mean, you've got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson and Derek Stingley all playing phenomenal ball. Jalen Petrie is stepping up, and you've just got great playmakers all around this defense. And then the offense is that offense. They're dogs. Mixon had a phenomenal first 2 weeks. He is getting spoon-fed targets and carries. I don't know how much targets, but he's getting spoon-fed touches in general. He's getting spoon-fed. Stephon Diggs, he's that short yardage king for them. And he has found his role perfectly, and he's doing it well. Tank Dell, that is the only gripe I have about this offense is that connection needs to be there, or else they would have their own tier just called the Houston Texans. Because there were some big plays that Tank Dell missed on. But overall, Houston, phenomenal team, phenomenal future. Not only just talking about this season, but going into future seasons. I think they could be on top of the world at the end of it all. And this is a great sample size looking at these first 2 weeks. Because that Chicago team, they've played better. But I want to see better quarterback play from Caleb Williams before I move them up. But that Chicago team is not an easy feat. Obviously, their defense is great. And then Minnesota. Man, Kevin O'Connell is a phenomenal head coach. Kevin O'Connell is a QB guru. Not because he fixes quarterbacks out of nowhere like Carolina thought with Dave Cannells. It's because he makes a team that any quarterback can fit in. When Hawk and Addison get back, hopefully Jettis isn't out for too long or isn't out, period, but don't really know the report coming back on that injury yet. But once this offense is fully healthy, dude, Sam Darnold's going to be just fine. He's fine. Aaron Jones fumbled at the end zone, but, I mean, if he didn't fumble, y'all would have won this by 2 scores against a team that is coached by what most people consider the best head coach in the league in Kyle Shanahan. Great start for the Minnesota Vikings. If I were to pick a team in these top 3, yes, New Orleans played a phenomenal game. Yes, Houston is the team that is probably the to beat in the entire league right now. But Kings of the World overperforming, they're losing talent, and they're still performing well. I got to say, as of right now, if I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, I am shocked. I am above awe right now. I would say, as of right now, Minnesota's on top of the world. They're playing phenomenal ball these past 2 weeks. One bad loss, like I said, can switch anybody around. And I think that is the case here for Minnesota. I don't think they'll be up here for too long because then talent will start kicking in. But Kevin O'Connell has had himself a phenomenal start. It's a coaching masterclass. And I'm really excited to see what this team could end up being once JJ gets back. I'm excited for what this team could be with Sam Darnold. Fuck it. Sam Darnold's looked great. He's looked comfortable. And that's all you want from a guy like Sam. You just need him to look comfortable. But that right there is the Holmes hierarchy from kings of the world all the way down to just plain old David Tepper. There is a ton of stuff to look at. Is his name even David Tepper? Hold on. He's such a nobody. I don't even know if his name's actually David Tepper. Owner of the Carolina Panthers. It's David Tepper. David Tepper sucks. And so do the Carolina Panthers. I just wanted to make sure I get that out there. But right there is the Holmes hierarchy. That is what you're going to be seeing every single time I come up here and talk about the NFL. It is going to be the Holmes hierarchy. We are going to go from the bottom all the way to the top. We will likely always start with the Carolina Panthers being at the bottom, unless Andy Dalton goes back to 2014. But either way, there is the first, even though it's not the first week of it, or even though it's not the first week of the NFL, there's the first week of the Holmes hierarchy. Now let's jump into some college football, why don't we? Change of clothes, but not change of scenery. Different day. Shocking. What do you know? I just didn't record the second half of the episode, but I'm still going to get it up on time. Also, don't mind this. That's what happens when you fight a football, not a guy, but you run into a snapping football. Granted, other guy jumped off sides, but we didn't call that because I ran into the football. Don't do that. But speaking of running, let's talk about some college football and some phenomenal run game that I saw with the Hokies going to ODU. Now, the reason I'm starting off talking about this game, one, it's the college I go to. Two, it's the team that I cover. I just took a trip down to ODU, covered my first game in person, and it was fun. It was really fun. I don't know if I've mentioned it on this podcast, but if you are on any of my socials, then you would know that I do writing for Sons of Saturday, which is a publication up here in Blacksburg. Phenomenal people. Just getting started off with them. Been doing some stuff over the off season. And then now that the season is here, we are in full swing. So big shout out to them, giving me that opportunity. But it was a phenomenal game if you're a Hokie fan, a bad game if you are a Monarch fan. So if you're one of two Monarch fans, because I will say this, they showed out. ODU's fans did show out for that game, but it was about half and half. There was a lot of Hokie guys there, and in that first half, it was definitely a little bit more of a challenge. If you want to see me go in more depth about it, like I said, sonsofsaturday.com. Look for my article. You'll see my name attached to it, talking about the ODU game, and also did one about the Vanderbilt game if you wanted to do a little retrospect. But I don't know why you would want to look back at that game. But we've got Rutgers this week, and I think if we follow a similar format like we did on offense, maybe not on defense for the first half, but if we follow a similar concept, I think we could play really damn good ball against Rutgers. They have scored a lot of points early on here. Their running game has been really good, but they have faced nobodies. They have faced very poor programs and then had a week 3 bye. So they have been preparing for Virginia Tech for 2 weeks. I think there is 2 possibilities for this upcoming game. I think what we're seeing with the Hokies, a team that almost put up 500 yards of offense, phenomenal day on the ground. You had some big plays in the air. You had some plays that got away from you. And yeah, the wind was kind of catching the ball when Kyron Drones threw his interception, and he was throwing a lot of deep balls down on that side of the field. The wind was kind of catching it. I understand that, but that ball still got to be there. If you're going to throw that ball, you got to have the confidence that it's going to be there. And, so far, I think Kyron has had that problem where he doesn't look like he's comfortable for 100% of the game. When he's comfortable, it's magic. When he's able to use his legs to complement his game, not just be a running quarterback, but to create the threat of him running outside the pocket and create plays with his arm, short field or down the field, I think that's where he becomes really, really dangerous. But if we follow the same format and we start off dangerous, we have Kyron comfortable. 14-0, we went up on ODU quick. We need to do that against Rutgers because this is either going to be a high-scoring run game or a grueling trenches battle. And I think if it comes to the trenches, it's one that we can win. Bryce Tootin, he dealt with a little bit of injury. Price said he was banged up going into the game, but seems like he's fine. He looked fine last week, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Can't really get any better than that. Ollie Jennings, you want to see come back. Xavier Chaplin, you want to see come back. Still waiting to hear on the word from them. But a lot of things are becoming very hopeful for this offense. Now, for the defense, you had some phenomenal plays, phenomenal game from Antoine Powell-Ryland. His name is APR around these parts. You say that name and you know who you're talking about with Hokies football, especially now that he is one of two people, and that other person being NFL Hall of Famer Bruce Smith, to record not only 4 sacks in a game, but to have multiple games with 4 sacks. So elite company for APR, and he had a phenomenal game, and you could tell the moment he came in that second half, he was the guy that helped switch the tides. We got 6 straight defensive stops in the second half, and that is something that you want to see. And a lot of people are going to be like, it's just ODU. Well, ODU almost beat South Carolina and East Carolina, 2 teams that are substantially better than them, talent-wise. And Virginia Tech is substantially better than them. But more or less looking at the South Carolina game, that was a 1-score game. And they were leading in that game for a good little bit. They had the reins there for a sec. And I think you want to look at a team like ODU, and and Pride knew this too, that you can't sleep. You can't sleep on them because they will make it a dogfight. And they did in the second quarter. Their third-string freshman quarterback broke off a 65-yard rushing touchdown. A former guy who used to be on Virginia Tech had a 48-yard run and finished with, I think, like 70 or 80 yards on the day. And he really didn't get a lot of touches. They were just really, really efficient touches. They were big plays, left and right. And that's the one thing that does concern me about Rutgers, is that their offense is very, very reliant on handing off the football. They'll hand it off 30 times. And I was talking with my professor about this. He said that, Rutgers, they'll hand it off 5 times and they'll get 1 yard. But on that 6th run, all they need is 8, and then they're going to be going. And that's what happened last year. It was Kyron's first start. We went on the road to Rutgers, and they ran all over us. Now, it wasn't efficient running when you're looking at every single play, but they had big runs, which jocked up their efficiency. So this is a team that I think is built off big plays, not big drives. Those are the annoying games, when you know that they are just going down the field methodically. But the big plays, you can stop. You can adjust on big plays. It's really hard to adjust on good drives, because good drives react to what you're doing. Good drives have an established game plan that is supposed to keep you moving around. I don't think Rutgers has the ability to establish good drives unless we give their running game the ability to have those good drives. But based on what we did last year, it was more or less just big plays. I think if we limit the big plays, I think Virginia Tech could easily go into Miami 3-1. It might be an ass whooping down in Miami. And I really wouldn't be surprised if it is, because it's not looking the greatest. Miami looks really, really good. Cam Ward is the Heisman favorite right now. And it wouldn't be the easiest game. Let's just say that. But it would mean a lot for us to get some confidence. 3 in a row. We got 1 on the road. We get 2 at home. We're going up against a Big Ten team that has been really dominant against some really poor teams. If we show them out and show that we can do good, not only in an environment that we are expected to win in, but in an environment that we are expected to dominate in. And if we can withhold those expectations, I think it goes really well for this team going into an environment where they're not expected to withhold those expectations, where they're expected to be the odd man out. That's where you start seeing these good teams prevail, is when they live up, they do the job, they get it done, and then when they're faced with adversity, they say, you know what? It's our game. It's not theirs. It's not a collective. It's our game. We need to go out there, establish the pace on both sides of the ball, front to back. I still have not seen this team do that. We did it for 3 quarters, but not 4. We need it for 4 once we go to Miami. And I think we need it for 4 in Rutgers. We need to see what it looks like. I've seen what it looks like before. We did it against Tulane in the Military Bowl. We did it against some opponents like Pittsburgh when we faced them last year. That was one of the more electric games. That was Kyron Jones' coming out game. How I see it. We need to establish pace front to back. That is still something I think this team has not done yet. And I'm really looking forward to see them do it against Rutgers this week. Moving on to some other stuff going on in college football. FSU, you still suck. I don't even think you belong in the ACC, dude. With how you're playing right now, you belong in Conference USA. Hell, get out the FBS. I heard Pac-12 needs a couple extra teams. You could probably join them. But dude, I mean, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I read something saying that, DJ Ukulele and Florida State is like whatever, however many teams, I don't know. They might have been the first, who knows? That started off in the top 10 to start 0-3. Ridiculous. They started off in the top 10. Now they're in like the bottom 10. I mean, literally, there is no team that is doing this bad that had this high of expectations. I've never seen this happen. If FSU is supposed to be a powerhouse, they're supposed to be the school in the ACC. I would say Clemson, but Clemson doesn't know how to use the transfer portal. They just know how to recruit. They recruit very well. They get a top 10 draft class every year, but they don't really do too much in the transfer portal. Florida State recruits well and they get transfers. And they still suck. I knew this team was going to be a step down because you lose Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Trey Benson, Jordan Travis, all guys that were very, very important pieces of your team. Keon Coleman, I completely glazed over him. Those are important parts that you cannot ignore, and they're really hard to replace. But you're Florida State. You're supposed to be honestly, you're marketed as the flagship school in your state because of how underwhelming Florida has been in the last couple of years. I mean, hell, you went undefeated last year. You were the ones that were saying that, we should go to the SEC. We should ditch the ACC. That's the only reason we didn't make the college football playoffs. You're making them look really, really smart right now. Even though that was an entirely different roster, it's still run by the same people. I just don't understand it. But I do want people to understand that this is not a Florida State problem. I think it's just a lot of teams getting better. Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's one of the most fun teams to watch in college football right now because you're just waiting for them to pull up another upset. Phenomenal run game that they have over there. Boston College. They're in the top 25 now. Bill O'Brien has done a great job. I mean, you can't look at what he's doing and say, it's kind of just luck. No, he's gone out there and he's coached some damn good football games. Hats off to him. But Florida State's got to do some soul searching. Of course, this is the one year we don't have to play them. I wish we could have played this Florida State team this year, but no, it's too unfortunate. Is that we just had to play the best one that they've had in the last 5 years. That's great. Anyways, Florida State, you still suck, but I mean, how many more weeks are we going to talk about it? It's just like beating a dead horse at this point. So that'll probably be the last time we bring up Florida State because now that they're 0-3, they're pretty much irrelevant. They could go for a bowl still, I guess, if they were perfect to round off the season, but I doubt it. Another team that I think showed a little bit of heart, but not as much dominance, is Georgia, another one of my teams. And look, you almost lost to Kentucky. I know, Kentucky's SEC. You can't always count out an interdivisional matchup. Brock Vandegrift, it was a comeback game for him. It was his old team coming in there that he never got a chance to really start for. He might have gotten some reps, but never started any significant games, if any. And he's coming into Kentucky, and he's trying to establish that, he was a highly touted prospect for a reason. And, he almost pulled it off, but really, more or less, it was just a defense battle. It was two good defenses going up against each other. I think Georgia's defense still played good. I mean, you held them to, what was it? What was the final score? 13-12 or something like that? I mean, you still held them to 2 scores. And you did your job. Offensively, Georgia stalled out a lot. Carson Beck didn't look great. But that's not me saying, oh, Carson Beck's a fraud. Because I know Carson Beck's good. He played really good football last year. Pretty much went under, pretty much no one talked about it. But now, he's going to get thrown up in the Heisman talks or thrown out of Heisman talks now that he won but didn't win as good as Cam Ward is right now. But Cam Ward's kind of riding the coattails of this offense entirely because he's moving with it. Usually you see a run game move with their quarterback. Right now I'm seeing Cam Ward move with their run game because it is that good. It is so unfair. But Cam Ward's playing great football. I don't want to discourage that. But either way, you're looking at a blue blood school with Kentucky. They're always going to put up a fight. But Georgia came out, got the job done. But they went down to 2 because there's a new head dog over there at number 1, and that's Texas, man. And everyone's talking about Texas because everybody loves talking about Arch, a mobile Manning. Some people are calling him Vanilla Vic, even though they were calling Daniel Jones Vanilla Vic a couple of years ago. People are calling Arch Vanilla Vic because this man's got a cannon and he's got a lot of running potential. Now, he's definitely not a guy that I think is a running quarterback, but I think as an improviser, he provides a lot of upside. And I'm very excited to see what he can do if he is aimed the starter. But I'm not going to jump on this train that he needs to be the starter permanently. Yeah, good game against a team that you probably would have beat by just as much with Quinn Ewers. I still think Quinn Ewers is likely the best quarterback in college football right now. He's played like it all the way up until he got hurt. And I stand by that. I would say it's probably Ewers, Cam Ward. I'd love to throw Shedeur up there if he wasn't on such an unlikable team. But then again, I mean, like, I don't hate Colorado as much as other people do just because Deion's a Cowboy. Deion Sanders, I mean, he's Cowboys royalty. I kind of can't not root for him. Shedeur's playing good ball, though. Carson Beck was playing good ball until this past game, so that kind of tampered expectations a little bit, but he's still playing like one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. Can't forget about Ole Miss, though. Ole Miss is playing very good, even though they missed out on keeping Kinshawn Judkins for likely what's going to be his last year. I'd be surprised if he doesn't enter into the draft this next year. But there are some pretty good talent. I mean, you've got Ashton Genty. Ollie Gordon could enter in the draft, will probably enter the draft. And Kinshawn Judkins, that would be an absolute stacked running back class. And TreVeyon Henderson's on that Ohio State team. I hate Ohio State so much. But anyways, back to Texas. We were getting taken away. Quinn Ewers is still the guy here. I still firmly believe that Quinn Ewers is the guy here because you look at what he's done so far, the connection he's built with this offense, it's still his offense. I think Arch came in and did a really good job. I think if a defense has a week to game plan against Arch, we're going to see a little bit more, we're going to see some rough sledding. Not bad football, but just more competitive football. Quinn Ewers, though, I think he needs to get back. I think this is still his team. I think this is still his natty that he needs to go out and chase for. And even though Arch came out here and played great football, all of my confidence is still in Quinn Ewers to keep going with this program. I don't think it's Arch's time. Not yet. But that is some of the top storylines in college football. Before I get you out of here, I'm going to run through the next week of NFL games and college games. I'm going to give you my games of the week for NFL and college football. Let's keep it within the college football realm, and let's see which games that you guys need to be paying attention to. The Friday Night Lights game this week is nuts. We've got Illinois and Nebraska, 24 versus 22. Dylan Raiola, Mini Mahomes, everyone keeps talking about him, but I think it's going to be a very, very good matchup. I am super, super excited to see what this team could end up doing. And talking about Nebraska, because I think this is Nebraska's team to lose. I think the Cornhuskers are out here doing phenomenal things. Matt Rule, again, he hasn't been able to do it a lot in professional football, but every time this man takes over at college football, he does a really good job. And I think he pulls off, but I think overall this game is a very, very entertaining game. But I do think Nebraska comes out here. Dylan Raiola has a pretty decent game. NC State Clemson could be tight. You never know if Clemson could underperform here, but NC State, I believe, is already going through some quarterback troubles. I think Grayson McCall might be headed to the bench for them. NC State's definitely not having the season that they were expected to this year. So it's a little alarming. It's a little alarming. So that could end up being a good game if NC State goes back to the brand of football they're used to playing. But don't be surprised if Clemson just dog walks them there. USC versus Michigan is probably going to be my pick of the week if there wasn't a massive, massive SEC matchup. We got Tennessee versus Oklahoma. Used to be something that you would look forward to if they got scheduled out of conference. But these are two teams that are looking to prove, one, Tennessee belongs into the top 5, and 2, that Oklahoma belongs in the SEC. A lot of people have been questioning whether or not Oklahoma has played really good talent. But I think what we're looking at here is an absolute sling off. I think we're going to have high scoring offense. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be an extremely competitive game. We've also got some pretty solid games in this afternoon slot. USC versus Michigan, that is going to be a test of how well USC can defeat Michigan's run game and take over in the trenches. But that's going to be an interesting matchup. I think USC should be able to come out because Michigan overall is not playing as great of football, but they did lose a lot of talent. It's a transitional year for them, but I would expect USC. But going into the big house, though, they might take over. You never know. It's a really good game. Another phenomenal matchup: Utah versus Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon versus the Utes, pretty much. I mean, but I will say Alex Bowman played pretty good ball last week. That's another game that it could be game of the week. But I would say Tennessee, Oklahoma. I would probably give my gold medal to. I guess that's what I'd call it. But I think it's going to end up being the one to watch for all of it. Right now, they have the spread as Tennessee -7. I don't know. I don't know if I'm trusting that. I don't know if I'm trusting that for Tennessee. I think Oklahoma might be able to cover. But then again, I might stay away from the spread because overall, the over-under is 57.5. Man, I think it's going to be higher than that. I would probably hit the over on this game. I think both teams will get into the 30s. At least Tennessee is going to get into the 30s because that's just the type of pace that this game is going to have. And the books are already looking at it like that. And I think it would be a very, very interesting matchup to see them go over. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit of more decent defensive heavy and they stay closer to the 57 line. But I would expect this to be a high scoring matchup. But I think Oklahoma's going to keep it close. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is like, we're looking at, you know, Tennessee sitting there at 28 points. If it's like 28-28, Oklahoma drives down, kicks a field goal, and then Tennessee gets up, like they go up there and score a touchdown. I wouldn't be surprised if this game is sitting at around 35-31. Maybe if they can kick another field goal, 35-34, that would be a really interesting matchup. But I think it's going to be that close. I think they're both going to get into the 30s or at least in the high 20s. And I would expect it to be a one-score game. That's what the spread says. But I think Oklahoma keeps it closer than 7. But moving on to the NFL, some stellar matchups over there for college football. But moving on to the NFL, we are already in week 3 of the NFL, and we've got so many injuries. But we got to look at teams that are trying to overcome these injuries. A matchup that I think a lot of people is going to think is going to be a stinker, at least at the beginning of the year, you would expect this to be a stinker, is the Texans versus the Vikings. But the Vikings have played really good ball on both sides of the field. Do I think they're a little bit of pretenders? Yes. Do I think the Texans will win this game? Yes. But the Vikings have competed. They've done a lot of competition. The only thing that does concern me, though, is Jeddah's okay? Is Jeddah's good to go? As of right now, we haven't really heard much of anything. If we haven't really heard much if Jeddah's is going to be in there yet. From what I've seen, I haven't heard anything super negative. From what I know, it's day to day. But he said he's hopeful. If he's in this game, that makes this game a worthy watch. If he's not in this game, maybe not. I think Eagles Saints is going to be a dogfight. I'm expecting the Saints to do hopefully what they did to us. And if they come out here and they become fraudulent, I'm going to be really mad. I'm going to be really, really mad if the Eagles win this game against the same team that just absolutely whipped us. And then they're going to be like, woo! Even though we're probably going to finish the week with the same amount of. Actually, no, we play the Ravens. You know what? I'll give my pick. You know what? I'm going to roll through. This is how confident I am in this week. I'm going to go roll through and give my picks. Patriots, Jets. Give me the Jets. Giants, Browns. Give me the Browns. Eagles, Saints. Give me the Saints. Texans, Vikings. Give me the Texans. Packers, Titans. I think this is going to be close. Titans have been able to keep it close, but they haven't been able to finish. I'm still going to go with the Packers here. A little bit of a Malik Willis revenge game. Broncos, Buccaneers, Bucks by 50. Bears, Colts. Give me the Colts. I think the Colts get their first win against the Bears. Chargers, Steelers. Give me the team with the better quarterback. I'm going to go with the Chargers there. Panthers, Raiders. Raiders by 50. Dolphins, Seahawks. Give me the Seahawks. The Dolphins are going to be without Tua until week 8. I have Jalen Waddle on my fantasy team. I'm crying in tears. But I've also got Jameson Williams, who is slowly becoming like a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. Isn't that crazy? Jameson Williams' breakout is actually happening. Well, we continue to see it with the Lions versus the Cardinals. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring matchup. Don't be surprised if the Cardinals get this game. They won't run away with it, but they might get this. But I'm going to go with the Lions here, going in to Arizona. 49ers, Rams. Rams are too beat up to compete in this game. Give me 49ers by a lot. Ravens, Cowboys. Give me the... do I want to say it? Give me the Dallas Cowboys. Give me the Dallas Cowboys. Because we always have these bad wins, and we always are like, oh, we have a stinker. Cowboys suck. And then we go out, and then we'll play good against a good team. Give me the Cowboys. Even though we're probably going to get ran for like 200 million yards on us. Damn, do I really want to pick the Cowboys? Justin Tucker can't make a kick. Brandon Aubrey can. Is Brandon Aubrey taking over Justin Tucker's throne? Give me Dallas. Give me Dallas. I'm going for my team. Chiefs, Falcons. Give me the Chiefs, but the Falcons, I think, are going to keep it close. Jaguars, Bills. I think this is going to be probably a little bit bigger of a score than most people would assume, honestly. Even though the Bills just won big against the Dolphins lost a lot of momentum once they lost to I think right now the spread's pretty close on this game. I think the Bills win by multiple scores. And then Commanders, Bengals. If T. Higgins is back, give me Bengals by 1,000,000. But if T. Higgins is not in, Jamar Chase, that connection has not been clicking. He needs to get that shit straight. And I think the Commanders could catch them lacking here and there. But I am going to go with the Bengals. If I were to pick any game to be my game of the week, I would lean towards Bears and Colts. Lions, Cardinals would probably get my pick, though. That game is set up to be a very high-scoring game. Jameson Williams. Please, Jameson Williams. Please be here. All I need is 3 weeks of Jameson. 9 targets week 1, 11 targets week 2. If these pass attempts stay high and Jameson Williams is out here getting targets, I'm going to be a very happy boy. I'm going to be a very happy boy. But anyways, those are my picks for week 3. Oh, and then we got the Giants on the Thursday night game. That's not a trap game at all. No, it better not be. But anyways, that's how I think week 3 of the NFL season is going to go. And that's how I think college football is going to be highlighted. I would be a nut job to go through all of the college football games like I just did with the NFL. I might do that every week, or I might just highlight the best games. But I'll probably get my picks before I send y'all on out. Remember, this going up on Thursday or on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to try to get it up today. On Wednesday. So hopefully if it's up on Wednesday, then you will see a fantasy episode on Thursday. If you do not see this on Wednesday and you see this on Thursday, I will have that fantasy episode up on the weekend. It'll just exclude the Thursday night matchup, but it's not that crazy. It's Jets versus the oh my God, Pats. I literally just predicted the game and I forgot about it. But yeah, I might just push it up to the weekend and then do my rankings excluding the Thursday night game because I doubt I'll be able to get this up before I have to go to class in like the next couple of hours. So whatever, you'll see a fantasy episode this week. I do promise that. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. It's early in the morning when I'm recording the second half, but I'm having fun. Great to be back. Plenty of stuff to talk about over on the fantasy episode, and there's plenty of stuff to look forward to in the NFL this week. I will see y'all then. Peace.